Hey y'all, Christian Styles back for another video, and this is gonna be a pretty fun one for me because I thought that it would be a good idea if I started a series of about cancers. And the reason why is because obviously, for those of you who don't know, I am a Cancer and the most dangerous zodiac sign. So I thought that I would kind of do a series on it, kind of explaining why I love my sign so much, most importantly, and why I feel like we are a superior type of person compared to the other zodiac signs. And the reason why I can confidently say that is because a lot of the things that happen in our lives didn't come as a surprise. Like, we already knew it was getting ready to happen before it happened. It's just in us to be intuitive in nature. And a little story that I'm going to share with you guys about that is why cancers don't have friends. Now, there's been a trend on social media going around that's basically that exact topic: why cancers don't have friends, why cancers don't trust people, why cancers kind of stick to themselves most of the time, and why we don't respond to things that you think we should. Like when people are angry with us or when people cuss us out, or we're really sparing you, and that's why we don't respond. And I'm gonna get into that in just a moment. So I'm gonna take it way back to 2023, I believe it was, when I first got the contract to travel with Amazon. And as we know, I've been a huge part of, I guess, Amazon as a whole, because I was working for them for so long. So back in 2018, I started my Amazon career as a driver, and 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, okay, 23 was 6 years in. So 2023, I got an offer that said, that we'll pay you $10,000 if you move, and there's all this bonus stuff. If you sign the contract for a year, you're stuck at this building, and blah blah blah. It was a new building that was opening up around August, I believe it was August of 2023, and it was in Savannah, Georgia. And I'm like, Savannah, but the address says Pooler, Georgia. Little did I know that they're basically the same. So I was like, okay, cool. It's kind of like Fort Lauderdale. There's different parts of Fort Lauderdale: Pompano, Tamarack, Margate, North Lauderdale, but it's all under Fort Lauderdale. So it's the same, it's a similar situation with Amazon. Well, that location of Georgia, rather. And so I said, okay, fine. And I packed up my family and I hit the road and I moved. And during my orientation, before I started my first line of duty there as a newly appointed member of staff at that building, there was a big group of us. I want to say there was maybe 86 of us in that class, either 86 or 101. I can't remember, but it was one of the two. It was, they said it was one of the largest classes they had done thus far for the new building. It was 86 people or 101. It was one of the numbers. And we're all sitting in there during orientation, no problem. I cling to this young lady by the name of Samantha and Kay. And that's what she went by. Her full name was Kayla, but she went by Kay. And so they were in the same little orientation class, and it was okay. And those are the ones that I spoke to during the first 2 days of orientation class. And then they gave us the tour around the new building, and we walked together on the tour and laughed and talked, and we were kind of getting familiar with each other. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this is not really my speed. Cancers don't really do this kinds of things. And the reason why is because 9 times out of 10, we guard ourselves, and we guard our hearts, and we guard our energy. And we don't allow fakeness or phoniness to, interfere. And so I knew, because Amazon is just like high school. Anybody who tells you any differently, they are lying to you. When you work for Amazon, it is like going to high school all over again. Drama from overgrown people that should know better, but choose not to use their common sense. So I was prepared for that, having been with the company for so long already. I kind of knew, when I have lunch, I'm going to stay by myself. When break time, stay by myself, because what you don't want to do is make the wrong friends. And the reason why I say that is because, and that goes for any zodiac sign that works for Amazon as a company. A lot of this stuff is specific to Amazon as a brand and as a company. But the reason why you don't want to is because everyone is envious of people who are at a higher rank than them at Amazon. And if your tenure would dare surpass someone else's and they feel like you shouldn't be as high as you are, they'll try to tank your employment by lying on you and stuff like that. So there was a lot of reasons, per se, that you would want to stay to yourself at Amazon specifically. But it's already in a Cancer's nature to stay to themselves. A Cancer is a crab. We stay in our shell. We retreat when things don't feel right. And no amount of camaraderie or no amount of conversation is going to necessarily make a Cancer feel comfortable. And so it was a very uncomfortable situation sitting in a room of like 80-something people. And I just had to cling to someone that was cool. I was always the funny one, the class clown, the one that, makes everybody feel comfortable, even when I am wildly uncomfortable. That is the thing about a Cancer. A Cancer can be in a situation like that and make others feel like everything's going to be okay, even if they are screaming for help on the inside. And that's honestly my experience. That's exactly what I was feeling. Later on in that same week, I had met another young lady, and apparently she was in that same orientation class, or so Kay and Ella and everybody was trying to tell me, that she was sitting like behind us when we were in there. And I'm like, you were? And I'm like, I don't recall that. There was a lot of people in the room, and I looked around to see like who was near. And she was like, yeah, she had a little hat on. She had a hoodie. She was, trying to be incognito, as we call it. And so I was like, okay, I didn't notice you. Which is funny because she was a beautiful young lady. So usually when there's like pretty females in the room, I'm going to notice you. For some odd reason, never noticed. So they were like, yeah, she's cool, and we're all signing up for Amnesty, and we're all going to do this together. We're going to get our rates up, and we're going to become the Amnesty team. So Amnesty is basically the people that in Amazon robotics stations, they go on the floor with the robots and pick up the stuff that people drop and, fix the robots when they malfunction and stuff like that. It's just, there's more of an overview on that later. If you guys want me to do more in-depth videos about Amazon, I have a whole series planned for that. So they were part of the Amnesty team, and I said, okay, great. Who is this person? So I started to talk to them, and I thought that we had hit it off fine. Like, we were okay. There was something about her that just seemed off, though. And this was before I even knew she was a Libra. I had no idea she was a Libra, but that made a whole lot more sense to me once I found out that she was a Libra, because normally Cancers and Libras get along just fine, except for when they're fake and they're phony and stuff like that. So and she was a young lady that was easily manipulated by the other young lady that we met shortly after that. This young lady, her name was Bree, and she was okay one-on-one when you were, with her one-on-one for months. For months, she was okay. She was a cool person. She was kind of like one of the life of the parties, the biggest part of our circle, friendship circle or whatever, a clique. And then when the other young lady, the negative influence, Keisha, came around, she became a whole different person and literally 380, like completely turned 360 degrees around and then some, and became somebody that was fake and phony and rude and disrespectful, and um, you would single me out a lot, even though I was always nice to her. I was never rude or disrespectful to her. I actually cared about her as a person. And then as the rumor mill started to go around that, she was being viciously beaten by her husband, then it all kind of made sense. Like, she's trying to get away from this man. Like, I'm gonna try to help her. She was also the plug, so I would often buy weed from her when really, I wasn't that much of a smoker. But what I can say is I was willing to spend the money as long as she had a little bit more money in her pocket to take care of her kids or get gas or whatever it was. And when my sister was living with me, I made sure that she did that as well, and bought weed from her exclusively. And I tried to be as much of a help to her as possible, because I had a feeling that, things were much worse than she was letting on. And of course, none of this information actually came directly from her until later on. It came from other people that she would confide in. And I'm like, I don't think we really ought to be discussing this, because she hasn't really come out and said that to all of us, only a select few of us. But in any case, it was kind of like an unspoken thing, and we tried to help the best way we know how. Now, cancers like me have a heart of gold, even when you disrespect us and treat us badly. So as she was treating me badly and her behavior was starting to change, I still saw her in high regard, because I remember the person that I met when she was pre friends with Keisha. Before Keisha came into the picture, I remember who she was and seeing her heart. And we used to sit out in the parking lot for hours, and have conversations. Like, we would literally clock out and stand out there in the cold one time and just stood there and talked, and had a good rapport with one another. And so cancers are going to do one of two things when these kinds of things are happening. They either read the situation for what it is, or they really begin to open up and trust you until you do something to show them otherwise. Now, even though there were things that she would do or try to avoid me in the parking lot, which is kind of weird when we all parked in the same area, like, she was never one to upfront say that I have a problem with you, or I don't like this, or I'm not your friend, or whatever. She would talk to me about my personal issues, her personal issues. We would have like a real conversation. We talked all the time during work hours when we would see each other in the building. She'd come over to me. We'd have like an exchange. So her persona was very, I see this person as a friend. Even though for me, the entire time I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to declare her as a friend, because she seems fake and phony. And I'm talking to her because why not? It's work hours. It really doesn't hurt anything. But I noticed that she would exclude me from a lot. Like, in most friends, if they're going to be friends with someone, they wouldn't exclude them from every other thing that happens outside of work. So I'm like, okay, so she talks to me when she wants to talk to me or whatever. And I noticed that it got progressively worse when Keisha came around. When I would buy food for Bree, or I would buy something for her, or I did that out of the kindness of my heart, not because I had to, Even one time I did bring food for Keisha too, because I thought, okay, if I'm gonna bring food for Bree and not Keisha, even though I don't fuck with Keisha and I really could care less about her as a person, I'm going to, do the proper thing. And so I always did that. But then at the same time, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, this is how cancers often get hurt, because they look at things from the outside looking in, and they don't really internalize all the details. And I wasn't internalizing the details at this point, even though I knew that I was feeling some type of way about how Bree was behaving. Bree and Keisha then turned me against Kay and her sister and everybody else, and were feeding me information that I later found out wasn't even true. So they were like the mean girls of Amazon on the whole. And this is the beauty about a Cancer. Cancers are so very intuitive. I could kind of figure this part out on my own. I knew that there was more to the story because I'm thinking, just like we were all cool at one point and now we're not, she was cool with me at one point and now she's not. Now she's rude and disrespectful and being disrespectful on Facebook and over social media and all these kinds of different things that were never the case beforehand. So if you don't like someone or if you're not their friend, A, get off their social media, don't have them, put them on the block list, whatever you need to do. B, make that clear to them in a text message that says, hey, look, we're not friends, or, I really don't want to continue having a relationship with you or any kind of contact with you. I'm an adult. I can take it if that were to have been said. But don't pretend to be cool with me in my presence when no one's looking. And then the minute your handler, and that's what I'm going to refer to Keisha as for the remainder of this video, is the handler, because she was handling her like a handheld PS5. Literally, she was in control of everything she did, and she would speak for her, and she came into my DMs and cussed me out on her behalf. Why can't Bree say these things for herself? Is she that weak? Is that why she's being beaten by her husband? It started to all make sense. So I started to take my sympathy back in a way for feeling sorry for her and kind of regretted all the nice things I had ever done for her. And this is why Cancers often don't do nice things for people. Even though we do have a heart of gold, we try our best in the beginning. And once we get an inkling that it's not what it should be, we start to retreat and we become dark and very nasty people. Then therein lies the problem, why we don't have friends. We can't make friends unless someone is willing to accept us and be respectful to us and, understand that friendship goes both ways. So she was not the kind of individual that would admit that friendship went both ways. So that in turn created a bigger and a much deeper issue. And Libras are like that. And that's why I can't stand them. I can't stand Libras. I can't stand Leos. This is why we pick and choose who we hang around, and why we don't necessarily call many people our friends, because we can see right through you like a bottle of Windex. We can literally see that you ain't shit before the bad behavior starts to come. Now, why didn't I break off contact beforehand? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I really valued her as a human being, as a person, and I always see the good in people, even when there is no good to see. And I continue to give them that benefit of the doubt over and over and over again, until one day something just draws the line for me, and I just have to cut the cord. And today was that day for me and Bree, unfortunately. Today, I don't even know what today's date is, February something, 2026. However, whatever day this goes up on was the day. I'll make sure that I add the date to this video. But I just find that so funny. So when I returned to Amazon, so I worked there for 1 or 2 years, left. Everything was cool between us. When I came back for a period of time, she was funny. Like, she was acting funny. It was weird. Like, she was trying to avoid me, all types of stuff. But then again, her handler was there with her every step of the way, every moment of the day, with her head so far up her ass and basically speaking for her like she was some sort of puppet master. So I said, okay, so she acts regular when her handler isn't around. If I was making you feel funny, or if I was making you feel weird or awkward or whatever the case may be, say that like a grown-ass woman. Now, mind you, I'm 26 years old. She was over the age of 30. So you mean to tell me that you're not adult enough to say that you feel some type of way about something? Why continue to pretend to be friends with someone when you really don't want anything to do with them? It's just so much easier to just let that be known. And fakeness, we can smell from a mile away. So if you thought that I didn't see it, I don't know how you wouldn't think I didn't see it or catch the signs. I caught them, and I still gave you the benefit of the doubt because I knew if I really wanted to, I could destroy you with much more than just my words. And so I sat there and I said, you know what? She doesn't deserve that. She's going through whatever. Just like she knew my situation, she doesn't deserve that. With her cussing me out and calling me confused and a bitch and all this kind of stuff and a fuck nigga and telling me to fuck off today, it's kind of like, wow, you finally had the balls to do that after how many years? It's 2026. We haven't seen each other in person in I don't even know how long. And so these are you finally have the balls to stand up and say that kind of thing. And it just goes to show you, like, I was already expecting it. I was already waiting for it because she just flipped. Her behavior started to flip. She stopped texting back. All types of stuff started to happen. And I'm thinking, oh, she must be around you know who. There was even a time where I called her when she was still working at Amazon, and they share a desk. And so they were at the same desk when I FaceTimed her. And as soon as Keisha walked up, she literally hung up the FaceTime call in my face, never called back, never texted me, never said, oh, I'll call you back, nothing. Just flat out, her handler shows up, she hangs up the phone. So these are why cancers choose to, it's situations like this is why cancers choose to stay to themselves. Why it's so much easier for cancers to turn the other cheek rather than continue to what's the word, make something out of nothing. And I am not going to be the one to make a situation or a friendship out of nothing if the foundation is not there. I thought we were laying the foundation, but this is why we are skeptical. This is why we are resistant. This is why we retreat at the smallest inkling of a problem. Because if you don't, then we are risking getting hurt as probably one of the softest people in the zodiac sign. They say that cancers oftentimes are the mother of the zodiac. That is very true. We are the ones that teach you, coddle you, prepare you, and help you, and are the ones that will never turn from you come hell or high water. Now, I wish her the best in whatever situation she's currently in, which last time I heard it wasn't very good. However, no love lost because I knew who she was long time ago. I caught the glimpse long time ago. But what I can say is, if she ever were to call me and she ever were to need me, I would always be there for her, absolutely, because that's just who I am. It says more about who I am as a person than it does about who she is as a person. Even in such disrespect, I can still turn the other cheek and do for you and do well and do good for you, even when I know that you don't mean well for me. You see, so that's where I say that cancers are superior in a way to other signs and other people in general in society. And this is why zodiacs are so important. And I'm glad that there is such a thing as zodiac, because these personality differences often help with friendship, relationships of a romantic caliber, all types of things. And people just are who they are. And she was a weak-minded individual from the very beginning. I just never called it out because I didn't have a reason to. She was always good to me when nobody was looking. And that's the thing. You have to pick a side. If you like someone, then you like them. If they're your friend, if you're going to consider them a friend, as she's called me numerous times a friend, now all of a sudden I'm not a friend. Because of what exactly? What did I do to you to not be your friend? You see what I'm saying? I've never done anything wrong to you. So, phony bitches is why cancers are usually solo, and they enjoy their solitude because they don't want to go through the hurt and the pain of somebody pretending when that's really not necessary. Just say what you mean and mean what you say and move the fuck on. Just like I'm saying what I mean and mean what I say and I'm moving the fuck on. Just that simple. Cancers don't have friends. Cancers don't want friends. We don't care. We're good by ourselves. Stay perfectly imperfect, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.